All right. Hello and welcome to biology class. We are going to start off Unit 1 with the overarching idea of what is life. And to be able to answer that question, we're going to break this off into kind of three little sections. How to think critically, so a review of scientific method, characteristics of life, and then finally finishing out with cell and cell structure. So today's lesson is going to be lesson 1.1, how to think critically in science. So you can follow along on the Google Notes that are provided in the folder located in Module 1. All right. So first off, we want to kind of explore two things here. Theory and law, okay? It's important to understand the differences between the two. Now, oftentimes, some examples that you want to fill in with your notes would be the theory of evolution, germ cell theory. Those are examples of theories that we have to hold to a different standard than when we use theory in regular English terminology. When we look at theory in science, this is a collection of agreed upon explanations, experiments, through multiple years of research to come up with the best explanation for a natural event that is occurring. Now, theories can be scrutinized, theories can be challenged, especially when new technologies are brought in, new evidences. So theories are changing. However, we need to view them as based on all of the evidence what we have that this is the plausible explanation for it. Now, laws are a little bit different. Laws are, and you learned about this in chemistry and physics, the law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, atomic mass, all that good stuff. And the thing about laws is phenomenons that do not ever change. They stay consistent. And laws are laws of the universe that help guide everything else in it. So laws are a way to kind of help understand some of the theories that was presented. So both kind of go hand in hand. Now, all of the things in biology, how do we know what we know? You know, how do we get to the point where we have a pretty in-depth grasp of what life is? Well, it's all done on the scientific method, but there is one particular part of it that we want to get down, and that is inference. Inference is something that you can make a conclusion of based on evidences that you see have collected and tested, and also your prior knowledge of the natural world around you. And this is especially important when we talk about cases where we're not able to get the full picture of things. For example, life that may have existed 60 million years ago. We see fossils, we see evidences in sedimentary rock on everything. However, we only get partial of a picture, but by making other observations, by comparing to the natural world, we can get a decent idea of what we're working with. A good example of this is this dice right here, to kind of put it as an example here. So, if we kind of look at this example here, we have a die, okay? Now, on this die, it has 6 sides, but on the bottom, we don't know what it is. And let's say we're applying this to something in biology, such as, let's say, an evolution of a particular plant. We have a lot of evidences of how that plant might have evolved, but we're missing some of the pieces. And when we miss a piece, we have to look at evidences around us to try to infer a highly educated estimation of what it could be. So on this dice right here, we have a side with 6, 5, 1, 2, and 3, okay? Now, with the die here, one would say, well, on the bottom of the die is 4. It has to be. But how do you know? Well, look at the evidence. We know that a cube has 6 sides, and numbers go through 1 through 6, and the only one that's missing is 4. Another solid evidence that would help your inference, well, If you look at a die, each side should add up to 7. 6 and 1, 5 and 2. And so if we look at the top of it, we can see that it is going to be 3. So on the bottom, it would be 4. And so these are kind of the examples where even though we might not get the true detailed answer, we can find some really good evidences and natural surroundings to make a pretty good inference with that. Now, we will continue on working with scientific method as we go through the year, but let's just go over some of the big fundamental things, all right? So every particular lab has to start with a hypothesis, but even before the hypothesis, add this to your notes. We also want to form a testable question. Or in other words, why are we doing this lab? And so an easy way to always ask or to write a testable question is, does the, and this is blank, affect the blank, all right? And in this part right here, this is where you're gonna put your independent variable. And here, this is where you're gonna put your dependent variable. So it sets the big question up on what are we trying to look for? Now your hypothesis though, is your testable explanation, all right? And not just an educated guess, but really kind of tap in on what you've learned about before to make a proper hypothesis. Now though, remember that when we talk about hypotheses, it's always put into an if-then statement, all right? And so in this part, after the if I'm gonna kind of put this right here, this is where you are going to describe or put a description of what is being changed. And so here, in this experiment, they are changing the amount of fertilizer. None, little, medium, and a lot. And so in this way, they said, if the amount of fertilizer is increased, so if we increase the fertilizer, then, and then we have this second part right here, this part right here is where you're making a prediction. And this prediction's based on your dependent variable or what you're measuring. Now, always, 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 when working with this, be specific. Tell me exactly what you think is going to happen and which group is going to be involved. Before here. So if we kind of take a look at an example here, we have this nutrition company has created a new type of energy drink that is claimed to improve reaction time. 60 volunteers are selected. Group A drinks the new energy drink. Group B drinks the popular energy drink, and Group C brings the water. So the first thing we got to do is create a hypothesis. But before we even do that, let's pull from, okay? So let's write a hypothesis. Let's first put our IV and DV. Our IV in this case is going to be the type of drink, because that includes both the new, the popular, and the water. My DV on this case is going to be reaction time. So I have my two variables. So let's go ahead and plug it in. So if the groups are given new energy drink, popular energy drink, or water. So I just put down my independent variable. Now I'm going to write my then students who drank the new energy drink has faster reaction time. Now here's the deal with this here. I was specific. I said it was going to be faster, and I made a prediction of which one I think it needs to be. So the key thing with hypotheses is you want to be specific. So That is right now where we're at in our scientific method practice. Go ahead and you'll follow along with the scientific method practice to work on this further. Back to this, and let's look at variables. All right, so variables are anything in the experiment that is being changed, and that's the key thing here. We want to know what is being changed and also what is staying the same, because right here, this comes into importance, controls. You have to have correct controls in an experiment to make it a valid one and to truly see if the effects of the independent variable is actually affecting the dependent variable. And so there's two variables we want to look at here. The independent variable, the IV. Now this is what we are changing and manipulating. Oftentimes you can write IVs with the type of. So in our previous example with the energy drinks, we have new energy drink, old energy drink, and water. A way we can say all three in our hypothesis would be the type of drink. You can also say the amount of, in a lot of cases, or temperature. Now, for the dependent variable, this is what we are measuring, okay? Has to be measurable. Back to our, all right. So if we look at this option right here, if you spend more time studying, then your grade will improve. So let's go improve, all right? Well, our two variables are going to be time studying and grade. And so our IV is the amount of time studying. Now, you can't just put studying. Because if you just put studying, studying what? Studying upside down, studying with a cup of coffee, you gotta be specific, all right? And that is key there. And our dependent variable is going to be the grade. All right, pause the video, take a second, try this one on your own. If you take a look, if the temperature of the room is increased, so we're looking at temperature, then the bacteria will grow faster. So our two variables are going to be temperature and bacteria growth. Here. All right. Now, this is oftentimes missed and confused with a lot of students. The difference between the control group, and the control variables, okay? The control group is one of the experimental groups that is not getting the change. It either is staying the same or it's the normal part of it, but this is what we're going to use to compare the other groups to see actually if what we're seeing is truly the effect of the IV. Now, variables are anything outside of your independent variable that could also affect the dependent variable. So if we're talking about that nitrogen growth from the previous example, yeah, nitrogen will affect the growth, but so would how much you water it, the temperature, how big the pot is. So if you were going to do that experiment, you've got to know all of the external factors that you'll need to keep the same so that your experiment stays consistent and